And we've been a Marketo client now for a little more than a year and a half. And I'm going to go through first a little bit about us, a little bit about me, why we chose Marketo, and I want you all to stop me at any time if you have any questions. If you don't have to ask me questions today, you can feel free to call me or email me and ask me any questions you have about the product. We do a lot of work with Marketo, and we use Marketo for some very, what I consider, innovative applications. But a little bit about us first. We are a search engine marketing firm, so we do organic search, SEO. We do paid search advertising. We do social media advertising and online reputation management. So about everything you can do with the search engine, for the most part, we do. We are headquartered in Charlottesville. We have an office in Charleston, South Carolina, which I would like to be there later today because it is cold here today. We are a Google certified partner, and last year we were named Inc. 5000 as one of America's fastest growing private companies. We've been featured in lots of magazines and blogs, yada, yada, yada. And I recently wrote a piece for the Marketo blog, which I encourage you all to take a look at. I do a lot of writing on conversion because we work with a lot of companies, obviously, to put those leads in the funnel, at the top part of the funnel, lead generation tactics. And so I talk a lot about landing page tactics. When I go out on the road and talk to conferences, I talk about how to improve conversion. And so I wrote a piece for the Marketo blog a few weeks ago. If anyone is involved, you all don't have to write that down, but if you're interested in it, I can give you the link later, email it to you, about how to use Marketo specifically to increase conversions in your landing pages. So some innovative ways you can do that. And we've been speakers at the Marketo Summit. We're speaking at DemandCon in San Francisco next month. So we do a lot of lead generation type activity, work, and conferences. We've been in business, by the way, for 7 years. So we're going to talk a little bit about the progression of how we got to where we are now with Marketo and what that meant for us. Some of our clients, we work with B2B, B2C, nonprofit, government, you name it. We work with everybody. And one of the things that I think makes us a really unique type of customer from Marketo is that we have the ability to work with lots of marketing automation systems. Because many of our clients use marketing automation systems. We encourage them to use them for our benefit as marketers so we can really understand the impact of the work that we do for them. So we were able to look at many different marketing automation systems out there. We work with a lot of different ones. And we specifically chose Marketo for many different reasons. And so if you're, again, shopping, you're looking at the different features, and you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask me why we chose Marketo, because I'm very happy with the choice we made. So a little bit about me so you understand my perspective on some things. I've been working in marketing for 20 years. I used to be based up here in DC, and my primary focus has been in the B2B sector in technology and software. I used to work for Software AG, I worked for TELUS way out in Loudoun, and I most recently had worked for a company called Web Surveyor, which was acquired and became Vovisi. It's a survey company, and they were out in Herman. So I have a lot of technology, software, B2B experience. And when I was at Web Surveyor, we had a homegrown version of what is Marketo today. Basically, we had our own homegrown marketing automation system, and I fell in love with it. So we're going to talk a little bit about history. And when I left Web Surveyor and started Search Mojo, I wanted to take something like that with me. But it didn't really exist yet. So we're talking about that evolution. So here's what our evolution looked like. In the beginning, phase one, first year of business, we had a website and we had an email or database or Excel spreadsheet to capture our leads. I think a lot of people end up in this situation the first year, just trying to figure it all out. Needless to say, this is not a very effective way to do things. The leads were only emailed to me. They got lost in emails. There was no great way to follow up and do tracking and so forth. So in other words, even though we thought our funnel would end up like this, it ended up like that. Stuff was falling out everywhere. They got lost. And when I'm trying to run a company, and we're a 20-person company, we're trying to run a company and follow up with leads, it was not working. Right? It's just there was no way this was going to work. So we knew something had to be changed. So the next few years, we went to phase two, where we actually implemented Salesforce.com, which is a big leap for a small company. So we had some problems with this too, though, because Salesforce, as an example, as a CRM, duplicates lead records. If you don't know that, it's a real challenging situation for me. And so if you have more than one person following up the lead, you could have one lead actually get assigned to 2 different people, which is a problem. Not everyone also wants immediate contact. We found this out as we started to look at why we weren't closing sales. We realized that, as we've been talking about, just because someone signs up for a webinar or some type of asset, it does not mean they're ready for a quote. It just means they want to watch your webinar. And we found that our sales cycle was about 90 days or sometimes longer. For us, the reason it's that long is because we have people who are in contracts already, who are waiting to get out of them, and they're researching options, but they're not ready to buy necessarily today. And so we needed to find ways that we could continue to talk to them and have those conversations in some way, or message with them in a way, but not hound them immediately to become a quote, a request or quote. And some people in our situation may never be qualified buyers ever. And so we are in a unique situation, which some of you may find yourselves in as well. And as we look at personas and who comes to our site, who we're targeting, one of the challenges I have in my industry is we have learners versus buyers. Because as an SEO company, and I go out and talk on the road a lot, I have a lot of people who want to learn what we do and learn from us, and that's all perfectly wonderful. Except those people will never buy from us because they want to learn what we do. And so we needed a way to really understand those 2 groups of people and make sure we were targeting our marketing better. So now that we learned that these are our problems, these are our challenges, we went from this to this. Now let's see if my build works.
Nice.
We inserted Marketo between Salesforce and our website. And so the effect this had was this. When we had Salesforce alone, and we went from Salesforce with Marketo, our marketing qualified leads that became opportunities increased by 25%. Okay? Opportunities won, Salesforce alone versus Salesforce with Marketo, 63% increase. And the time to close with Salesforce alone versus with Marketo reduced by 2 weeks. So as we were talking about earlier, the change with adding Marketo was more of, we didn't push everything into the sales funnel immediately. We were nurturing, we were holding back what wasn't really qualified and ready to go to sales, and it made a huge difference in how much we could close and how quickly we could close it. So here's how we did it. Here's the magic sauce. Okay, first of all, we updated all of our forms because, as I mentioned, Salesforce creates duplicates. So with Marketo, you don't have that problem. For the most part, this is not an issue as it is without Marketo. Because Marketo tracks each individual as they come to your site, they're watching what they do, and then they update that person's individual record as opposed to creating new records every time in Salesforce. That's a huge win. So it reduces duplicates, and there's a simple tool in Marketo also, in case you do sometimes get duplicates, to dedupe your duplicates. And it's very simple to merge those together. It's, in my opinion, much easier than in Salesforce.com. And you can also use one form in Marketo for multiple uses on your site. So for instance, I have a request a quote form. Anywhere I request a quote, I'm going to use that form. If someone's signing for a webinar, that form will stay the same on every single place I have that type of sign up. So it makes it a lot easier to manage as well from a website perspective. Step 2 was we developed lead scoring. Now, and I apologize, Marketo, I stole that graphic.
It's familiar.
I had nothing. I was like, how do you illustrate lead scoring? So lead scoring, really we work with 2 types of lead scoring. Lead scoring is where you're giving points to someone based on whether they did something behavioral, or if you give them points based on their demographics. So when they come into our system, we decide, do they have the right title? If they have the right title, or is the company size the right size? Or is the need there? What are the demographics? Where are they geographically located? They'll get points for demographics. Behavioral is, let's say they attended a webinar, they get a certain number of points. They downloaded a PDF, they get a certain number of points. They visited a key web page on my site, that they get certain points. So both of these can work together to give you a score. Now these scores then can be used to say, based on the score, who do I think is qualified now to go into sales? Now, the challenge is lead scoring is an iterative process. You will not do lead scoring and be done. It will not. You will come back to it. And we are, as an example, learning from it now. We're trying to revise ours because you set it, you learn from it, and you learn where your challenges are. In our case, as an example, we realized behavioral scoring wasn't working for us because just because someone watches a lot of webinars doesn't make them a buyer. It might make them a learner. Right? So we have to go back and revisit and revise and figure out what's going to work best for us. The third step was for us to define what a marketing qualified lead was. So we created our definition, and we created what we call, in Marketo, they're called flows. You can think of them as rules, essentially, to sync only marketing qualified leads with Salesforce.com to send them to the sales team. And it cut down on the number of leads in Salesforce.com. So right off the bat, marketers, let me give you this piece of advice. If you have a sales team and they have less leads, they're going to start to grumble. So it's going to be very important that you say to them, yes, you're getting less quantity possibly in the onset, but they're going to be much higher quality. You'll have a much better chance of closing them because I'm going to give you the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to give you what I know is going to have the highest likelihood of closing. I'm helping make you more successful, and I'm not going to waste your time. And I think that's really an important message. And once you get that down, you can start putting more leads in the funnel. But you want to get that right. And we like to say it separates the wheat from the chaff. You know, you're getting, now instead of just everything, you're getting really very highly qualified leads in the funnel. So some examples that we use for our flows, for instance, when does somebody immediately sync to Salesforce.com? When do they come in and we say, yes, this person's so qualified, I want them to go right through Marketo and be synced right to Salesforce.com. The only time I do that is when someone requests a quote. And the reason is because they're raising their hand and saying, I want you to give me a quote. That's about the only time I ever sync them directly to Salesforce.com. Sometimes I sync when a certain score isn't achieved. So if someone gets to a certain score or visits certain pages, then I might sync them then to Salesforce and make them a lead. I can also sync when what they call an interesting moment happens. So if something happens and that person visits, say, downloads a buyer's guide, then I might know, that might be an indicator for me that they're looking at buying. So I can start syncing on different reasons. Some people sync all of their leads to Salesforce. We don't do that. There are different ways you can set that up. We sync our marketing qualified leads to Salesforce. These are just some examples of flows that we do.
Jen, that's a good point, because there's never, I mean, everybody will have their take on what is the right way, because I have people that often ask me, I'm just curious on your take is, they say, what should I do? Should I just put everything in Salesforce, or should I use Marketo as a filter? And there probably isn't a right answer, but because you can work with either way, but how did you arrive at your decision to do it that way?
The reason we did that was because at the time we didn't have a great way to start signing leads. That was how we started with it. The other thing is we don't really use Salesforce the way some companies do. They might use it for customer support, some other things. We really, as soon as they become a customer, we don't really use Salesforce per se for ongoing customer relationship management.
Okay.
So it really depends on how you use Salesforce and
Cool.
Step 4 was we increased our lead gen efforts. So now that we know that we've got the back end fixed and we're syncing the way we want to, we developed personas, increased inbound lead gen activity, and increased the content marketing that maps to the buying cycle. Because that's going to also be key. You can't just implement Marketo. You've got to think about, what am I going to nurture these people with? Because that's what it's about. How do I keep talking to them? What can I offer them that makes sense? So think about what kinds of assets you have that you can offer them. That's going to be key. And step 5, we want to increase the conversion. So one of the things that, as I mentioned, I talk about a lot is conversion on landing pages. This is a study that was actually done by Marketo, and I have another one here in a minute. If you have a form with 9 form fields, or 5 form fields versus 9, you can increase, their study showed, your conversion by 34%. So by reducing the number of fields on your form, you can actually get more people to sign up, right? The less I, as a prospect, have to fill out, basically giving you my personal currency in a way, the more likely I am to sign up. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is important in a minute. This is another study done by Marketing Experiments. It said that a long checkout, this was 9 form fields, reduced to 3, increased the conversion by 300%. So why is that important and how does that relate to Marketo and its uses on landing pages? Well, one of the great things, and this is one of my favorite features by far in Marketo, is something called progressive profiling. What you can do with progressive profiling is propagate a user's profile over time. You can learn more about a particular lead over time and allows you to prioritize which fields you want to capture first. So here's an example of maybe our initial form. There are, by the way, you must capture 4 fields to sync with Salesforce. That's a requirement of Salesforce, not Marketo. First name, last name, email, company. Phone number is not required for Salesforce, but those 4 are. So this may be my initial form. Okay, you'll see that David Schlossberg has filled out 5 of the top 6 fields, right? He's not filled out country. The next time David comes back and asks for another asset and fills out another form on my site, he gets this. So he has to fill out first name, last name, email, so he can sync in with Marketo and be the right person. But notice that country shows up again because he didn't fill it out last time, and city. So Marketo then says, which fields do we not have information on for David? Let's put that in there now and get more fields. That's a great way to continually build information over time, and your sales team will love that because the more information they have, the more educated they are going in and talking with that particular prospect. Here's another way we use it. So as I mentioned, Salesforce duplicates leads, and Marketo does not. They sync leads, right? They put them together, all the information. So here's a webinar we did about marketing automation last year, and you can see that we have 4 fields, the 4 that are required for Salesforce to do any syncing, on our first page. Now, if you fill this out, you get signed up for the webinar. If you go to the second page, the thank you page, what you'll see here is we have another form, and you can get another asset, in this case an infographic, if you fill out this additional optional information. The only thing we require is that you fill out the industry, and we use that Marketo to do some personalization in our emails and so forth. By adding a second page, and now this again, if they fill it out, will sync with their original information in Marketo. There's the form. 42.3% of respondents filled out that additional information. Completely optional to get the infographic, and they did it anyways. So you get more information, again, increase conversion, and get more information up front from all of your prospects. The other thing you do with Marketo is nurture your personas. This is really key. So one of the best parts about Marketo is the fact that you can do this nurturing over time. I mentioned that my sales cycle might be 90 days or more for some folks. I talk with clients all the time, or prospective clients, that might be in a year-long contract. And so they are researching options and they want to get out of that contract and work with me, but there's going to be time, and I need to continue to nurture them over time. So one of the things you can do is you can nurture them over time with these emails and different offers that you can generate through Marketo. So I'm going to show you how that works. So as an example, one of the things that we do at Search Mojo is we work a lot with LinkedIn and Facebook for advertising. The reason we do that is because we're able to demographically target very specifically who we want to talk to. So to put this in commercial terms as an example, we'll say, let's say we have an ad on Facebook, so a B2C situation for, let's say in this case, dog food. Let's say we're a pet supply company. We offer dog food, and we know people in Facebook who have self-identified, raised their hand and said, I like dogs, or I like Petco, or I like dog book, or one of those things that we know somehow they like specifically dogs. So we give them a dog food sales. They click on the ad, and they get to a landing page that's focused on dog food, and then sales, etc. We can then mark that person with a cookie as a dog lover. So we know going forward this person loves dogs, and so we know that we can absolutely be nurturing to them later on as a dog lover. If they respond to the offer, that's great. We can pull that information down into Marketo, right, and then continue to use it later. And if they don't, we still have that information because maybe we cookie them as a dog lover. And then when they come, we can continue to market to them through Google retargeting and through nurturing programs over time. So here's how that would work in Marketo. We've got this person who's marked as a dog lover. They either fill out the form the first time or we retarget them and we finally get them back and we get them to retarget and come back to the form and fill it out. Once they do, and we have them inside of Marketo, we can now nurture them with dog-related emails and landing pages and messages. So it's not just for dog food, it's everything dog food we offer. If we have dog collars, if we have anything specials related to dogs, we know that person is a dog lover. Let's capture that and nurture them through Marketo as a dog lover. Another thing that's great is it's a relatively new piece of Marketo is the social login and social form builder. I want to talk a little bit about that. This study was done, this is pretty old now, this is about 6 years old, but it's still, I think, holds true today. As a marketer, I find this to be true. What you'll find is that a lot of people don't always offer realistic or truthful information when they fill out a form, and partially because they don't want salespeople to call them, right? They know that if I fill out this form, someone's going to pick up the phone, and I literally, Marketo will enjoy this, I literally get this all the time from your competitors who I fill out a form for something and they call me immediately. I'm like, aren't you a marketing automation company? Why are you calling me?
You tell them to take a hike.
I just downloaded a PDF. You should nurture me. What are you doing? So you get a little confused by that. But they don't, people know that when they sign up for an asset, that historically what's been happening is if you put in a phone number, a salesperson literally calls you immediately. Salesforce does this to me. They call me immediately. As soon as I touch something, they go, oh, hey, I saw you were doing this. They call me. So the problem is a lot of folks have now shied away from sometimes giving accurate information. And that can be really frustrating for your sales team. I'm sure you all have heard that argument before from your sales team. And so how can you get more accurate information for your sales team from your prospects? So here's an example of how we have recently used Marketo to capture more information. We are using now the sign in with LinkedIn button. And we actually did this integrating it with Marketo through the Marketo API and the LinkedIn API. There are multiple ways to do this, by the way. There's even a way you can do it innately just inside of Marketo itself. It's much easier than the API path. But we did this on our website, so we didn't want to put every page on our website inside of Marketo. We didn't want to host it inside of Marketo, so we did it outside and used the API instead. So what this allows us to do is say, hey, you want this asset? Fantastic. All you need to do is fill out these 5 fields, or you can just sign in with LinkedIn. Boom. Now, one of the great pieces about this is that when you sign in with LinkedIn, that information, you can do it with Facebook, you can do it with Twitter, there's a couple of different options within Marketo that you can use for different social networks. You can choose which ones you want. The beauty of this is that typically social networks have verified some level of information. For instance, email is typically accurate, and especially with LinkedIn more than any of them, because people want their LinkedIn profile to be accurate because they want to get a job with it, right? It's their professional voice. The other benefit of this is the sign in with LinkedIn button can give you a lot more information than these 5 fields. Even though it takes one step for someone to click on that button and get all the information, or give us their information, they don't always realize exactly how much information is in their public LinkedIn profile. So we can gather things like company size, their role in the company, what their title is, all sorts of great information about that particular prospect, and put it back into Marketo so we can really target those people.
What percentage of people use, because I love the social sign-in, but even for me, when I'm going and looking at solutions, I'm a little hesitant to do the sign with LinkedIn because I know all that information is in there, which is great. I mean, I do that sort of way. What percentage of people do you find in this example are signing in with LinkedIn?
Did you read my presentation?
No. Because
it's 5%.
I clicked it.
We've been running this about a month now. We're seeing about a 5% of people who come to this page actually use the social login button. And so one of the things we're going to do, though, is we're going to experiment with this page. Could we make this button bigger? Could we make it more attractive to do that? What if we made the form longer and said, oh, but this button's so much faster? Could we try and incentivize people to use that button more? Yes?
Out of that, excuse me, out of that 5% though, what's the value or the quality of the people completing?
That's a good question. I have to go back and look at the actual quality of the people. Now, when we target through social advertising, it's usually very high because we're targeting specific people. when they come to our site organically, it's a mixed bag. So we have to see who they really are and if they really are prospects. But that's a really good point.
Interesting thought, yeah, because I would guess that the people that sign in socially probably have a higher close rate. I'm just guessing. But like, those people are giving, they're like giving more.
Yeah.
Yeah, my intuition is that, you know, there's a higher sense of commitment because they're willing to
Yes.
put themselves out there.
Could
But
be. And we haven't implemented this on our request to quote form. This is just for like our marketing assets area. You got a question?
Yes, our experience is if you use LinkedIn, at least 60-70% of the LinkedIn email addresses are actually personal, not company anyway. And a lot of people actually use those filtering technique to say, if it goes there, I don't care about it. So, if you've had any experience there?
Well, we have that problem regardless of whether it's a, you know, there are ways certainly you could say to people you can't use a personal email address like Gmail. You can filter those out and tell people that they can't use them. But I think that's a general problem regardless.
That would shut down about 95% of our
So-
traffic.
And here's where we can use progressive profiling, right? So
Yeah.
the first time they do enter in a Gmail user, and then they come back to another form, and they'll say, hey, welcome, Ben.
Yeah.
You know, here's, you know, collect a little bit more information over a period of time, like their work.
Right.
So we agreed, yeah. I start with my Gmail, but then over a period of time, we're asking for that information.
Yeah,
And-
you can you can identify based on flows and so forth, who has those Gmails. You can even go back to them later, you know, and when they hit your site. You know, there's a lot of great things you do with the API as well, to just start targeting those people. And
We generally go back to data.com or
Yeah.
another source and things,
Yeah.
and we just hit it that way.
that's the other thing you can do. You can also, Marketo, I don't know if you guys touched on this, you can sync your data with data.com to get more accurate information. We do that as well. So that can be very helpful as well. So if you have title, company, name, that can help you go a long ways too.
And Janet, if I can just quickly address Ray's question about the quality of leads, and this is a pilot that we've had for about a month now, and so in that month we've had a pretty good uptake on it, and I personally, because I'm in Marketo every single day, I've seen that actually the leads from that are personas. I've gotten to the point where I can tell the difference between a good and a bad lead by eyeballing it. And we've been getting some pretty good leads, and in general, we get really good leads from LinkedIn anyway, from our LinkedIn advertising. So this just kind of follows suit, and this seemed to be a natural fit for us. To use the LinkedIn sign-in as opposed to a Twitter or Facebook. So.
Now, if you're B2C, you might want to use Facebook. And I'm not sure how much you want to use Twitter, because there's not as much information in Twitter. You know, the Twitter is an option, but I don't know that you might want to go that direction. So, but from a LinkedIn perspective, the other thing I like about LinkedIn is because people knowingly put their public profile out there, and it's all public versus on Facebook, I might have a private profile. That could be a little scary to see that. I think that some people might shy away from Facebook, but we don't use Facebook information for our targeting personally, so we haven't tested LinkedIn versus Facebook. So that's our next test.
Can anybody believe how expensive LinkedIn is getting? Have you seen how expensive LinkedIn is getting if you decide to use their paid version?
You know,
It's like $100 a month now.
oh yeah,
for using.
for like the networking stuff.
And what they're doing is they're cutting out, some of you may have seen this, but like if you're not a paid user, they cut out, they make it so you can only see like, you know, Andrew N. at this company. And if you're a salesperson, it's getting harder and harder to find out who that is. But it's interesting, the reason they're doing that is because now everybody's got a lot of information on LinkedIn now.
Yes.
And now we have people that are like, you know, selling cleaning supplies or something, nothing against selling cleaning supplies, but now those people are able to easily access the CEO on LinkedIn and know everything about it. And so now LinkedIn's trying to kind of block that and say, oh, if you want that premium information, you gotta pay us $100 a month. I think it's smart, I'm just curious if everybody else has seen that.
I've got a lot of spam. I mean, having the title of CEO sometimes isn't great because you get everyone thinks they need to target you, and I especially get some. It's really interesting to see the ads I get that are for female CEOs. I get that a lot. But I get a lot of spam through inbox mail. And I get frustrated by that. I think users probably are frustrated by that type of reaching out directly without having a relationship. I think it's a little different when you reach out to someone and you say, I'm touching you for this reason. I think it's very targeted for you. I get a lot of stuff that's really not. So I question if that's part of it. They just don't. At LinkedIn, they need to make sure you stay on their network. Unlike Google, they don't have advertising off network. It's all inside of LinkedIn. So they need people coming back and not getting frustrated and loving their network. So
Are you more likely to respond to a sales approach from LinkedIn as an email or just a regular email?
I don't respond to anything.
At all.
In LinkedIn or an email, no, yeah. I mean, I worked to a guy the other day who gave me a blind, reaching out to me blindly, and I said, you targeted the wrong way. I do a whole spiel. But I was like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you do a better job. So
Sales guys appreciate the no just as much as the yes.
well, that's the truth. I mean, I think that's really important because you want to give people good feedback on their sales process. So this is my contact information. Again, you can feel free to ask me anything you want about Marketo. I really do love using it. I think it's really helped us, as you've seen the numbers in the short time we've been using it. This is also an infographic we created a while back. If you'd like a copy of that, there's a link here, but again, I can send that to you. It's about how you separate the wheat from the chaff using marketing automation, and really what it does for you. We're real believers in it. We really encourage all of our customers to use it. So I hope this has been helpful for you today, because I'll tell you, I'm really pleased with our investment, and I hope that you all choose Marketo, because I think you'll really love it. And we love the support we get, like we were saying about the community, it's great. There's also a local user group here in DC that we're active in, and they're fantastic. You get lots of information, network with other people who use Marketo. So just highly recommend it. So I hope you guys really do seriously consider it, because it's a great tool.
Thank you.